Hello everyone, my name is Beatrice and I welcome you back to my Journey Faithful Compassion Home. Today I have something very special to share with you. We are diving into a very powerful teaching with Harold Clamp. This video will provide deep insights into spiritual growth and understanding. For those who are new in my channel, Harold Clamp is a key figure in the teachings of Ekankar. He is the Ek leader, the living. He also guides us through our spiritual journeys. Now let's dive into the video and see what we can learn.
Going on 3 months now. If there's not time, be grateful you're spared the story. I told my wife this evening I have absolutely no idea what direction this talk is going to go. Because in the 2 weeks preceding this, the Ek runs through a whole number of different streams where this talk might go. And I often think maybe it's to just get it out of my system so it doesn't have to get out here and perplex you. It'll help some of you, uplift others, frustrate more, anger a great deal. And since there are other activities going on tonight, I would like to let you go in peace and enjoy yourself. So whatever comes out of this is whatever comes out of this. Believe it or not, I have things prepared, but those are outside of this stream that has come through. This is another stream. So anyway, I got out to a drugstore finally, put on my electromagnetic shirts underneath, went in the store real fast, and I like to swing around the area where they have the children's books. I love books. I love all kinds of books. I love children's books, youth books, adult books, books on history, literature, all kinds of books. What you going to do when you're flat on your back for 3 months? You're going to write, you're going to read, and you're going to sleep, and you're going to heal. Oh, what a slow time. Someone who's a Christian asked me one time, someone very close to me, he said, you know, you've been into health things for a long time, long before other people ever thought about it. I said, that's true. Well, then how come are you so sick all the time? I said, let me explain, but I don't think you'll understand. Because they don't understand how the Ek works with the Mahanta, the living Ek Master, because the living Ek Master has duties, and he signed on to him before he takes the job. Now, before I took this job, I got to look at what the future held. And after the reel had been spinning and I saw the future for a while, I said, well, you better stop it or you're going to have to find someone else. And so these 2.5 months leading up to the seminar have been rough for many of you, as you've been burning off bundles and bundles of karma. This means past debts, made past lives, made in this lifetime. You've worked it off. Now the normal way to dissolve this is through the Ek life stream, and it depends upon your state of consciousness. The higher it is, the faster it goes. But in many cases, the living Ek Master becomes you might call him the holding tank. So rather than let you go through the long drawn-out period of burn-off and the suffering that it entails, guess who? Guess who gets it? The holding tank. Guess what happens to him? Just anything that you can imagine. So when this person asked me, well, why are you sick all the time? I said, I don't think you'd understand. And he wouldn't, because he doesn't accept me in my position, nor do I expect him to. He's of a different faith, and I love him dearly. But I don't expect him to sign on to what we believe. But whether he believes it or not, the fact is the fact. Someone takes a beating. There is real power in the path of Ek, real power in the teachings. There is real power to help people find spiritual liberation, but that comes at a price. Now, part of the price is one you pay. This comes in taking responsibility for yourself. This means that if you have the ability to work and the youth to work, you will work. You will not let the workers carry your load for you. I tell you, this is a lie of socialism, and many people buy into it. Now, many people on both ends, both those who work as the government givers, they're out beating the bushes trying to find more people who are, quotes, poor, because this ensures a job for the government workers, too. So excuse me if I stepped on some toes. There are many other people who've put in a lifetime of work, the elderly. They've earned $1 when $1 was worth $1. They have no understanding about the power of inflation to kill the dollar that was worth once $1 and is today worth a nickel. And so they've seen the buying power of their dollar turn into a nickel. And if someone else is handling the money, they never know. All they know is if they're living on their savings, the savings aren't helping them make ends meet in their retirement. And so where do they have to go? Well, of course, right into the divine hands of the government, which will save them. And who created this mess? The government, by inflating the money supply. Now, I could go on, but this is the line of talk that'll infuriate some people, and so I better move on to some of the happier things, so that by the time we finish, maybe they'll forget it, and maybe other things will replace it. These are the forces at play all the time, and our forefathers, the founders of this country, knew what these forces would be that would tear down the republic that stands, that was to stand. Our founders were educated men, highly educated men. Often they stood heads and shoulders above the educators of today who pretend to be the educators of the children of tomorrow. Now, one of the people I read to are translations by Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi. Today we know him as the Persian poet, but he was actually born in Afghanistan. Then his family fled the Mongol invasion as it swept down into Afghanistan, and his family took refuge in what is today Turkey. Now, his ancestors were educators, and I forget what all, and his father was the head of the local Sufi group. And when his father passed on, he passed on the title to Rumi, and Rumi became the head. And so Rumi was pretty much your average educator and teacher until the age of 37, when there was a profound change in his life. He met Shams from Tabriz. Now I'll tell you who Shams was. In Ekankar we call him Shams-e Tabriz. But in the translations I love are those by Coleman Barks. A friend gave them to me, a friend from Canada gave them to me years ago. Well, she approached Coleman Barks and got a whole bunch of these little volumes for me, so he autographed them. And in there, he also put a little note on a certain page to look where there was some spiritual note. So I treasure these particular translations more than I can tell. Now, there are several of his translations that are very good that I've read. One of them is We Are Three, and others. Well, now, Rumi's life changed when he met Shams-e Tabriz. Rumi was looking for the teacher. Shams-e Tabriz was the Mahant of the Living Ekmaster of the times. He was looking for someone who loved God as much as he, someone who had the capability, who had the state of consciousness to understand what he was all about, what message he had to carry. And so, at some point, they bumped into each other, and they recognized each other on the spot. And at that point, Rumi later said, "What I once thought of as God, I met today in flesh. But it was at this point that Rumi's life turned around, and he began to speak the many, many, many lines of poetry that are today captured in the Mathnawi. I believe in Ekankar we call it the Masnavi or some such, but most translators call it by some other name. Now he just spoke this poetry as it occurred to him. He spoke about anything. Someone walked in the room, he made it into poetry. Someone came into town for a meeting and was in the room, there was Rumi. He spoke poetry. Finally, his childhood friend and disciple said, "Hey Rumi, you know, how long are you going to keep doing this?" Rumi said, I certainly don't know. And he said, "Well, if you like, I will write this all down." Rumi said, "All right, if you want to." This went on for 12 years. His Chila wrote all this down, his scribe. Sometimes Rumi would say nothing for several months, and then he wouldn't stop talking for days. And all the while, the scribe would keep going, writing everything down, and this then appears today in the Mathnawi. Now, very little of this is an English translation. Coleman Barks took the available translations, which were literal translations, meaning very stiff ones, and he put it into human words. They're a lot of fun. Rumi told this story. One time a man caught a bird in a trap. It was just a tiny little bird, and the little bird said to him, he said, "In your life you've eaten a lot of oxen, you've eaten a lot of sheep, and your hunger is there with you still." He said, "Look at me, look how tiny I am. I won't quiet your hunger for even a minute. Let me go, and I will give you 3 bits of wisdom." So the man listened. He said, "You know, there's a bit of sense to what you say." And he said, "All right." And he opened his hand, and the bird stood on his hand and said, "All right, here's the first bit of wisdom." He said, "Number 1, don't believe in absurdity, no matter who says it." And then it flew out of the man's hand and landed on the man's roof. Up there, the little bird said, "Do not grieve over what is past. It's over. Never regret what has happened." So the man weighed this, and then almost as an afterthought to number 2, the little bird said, Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, in my body there is this huge pearl that's as heavy as 10 copper coins. It was to be an inheritance for you to pass on to your children. It's gone. You let it go. It flew up here. And the man began to wail and cry. And while he was wailing, in the middle of it, the bird flew off to the branch of the tree and sat there, well out of reach. And he said, "Oh, stop crying." And he said, "Listen, didn't I just tell you not to grieve for what's in the past? Also, don't believe in absurdity." He said, "Now you've heard both from me." And he said, "One you've heard and believed, and now you won't let it go." And he said, use your head, man, look it over." He said, "My body is too small to weigh even 1 of these coins. How is it going to hold something that holds 10? So my body wasn't going to hold a pearl that size in addition to my own weight." So the man listened. He said, "That makes a lot of sense to me. Tell me, number 3. Bird said, "Are you kidding? Look what you've done with numbers 1 and 2. And it flew away. This is one of the delightful stories that Rumi told. And they're scattered throughout. And some of those are just beautiful, some are funny, and they're all enlightening. I recommend them to anyone whose heart is looking for something that he can't find in Ek.
Harold Klemp mentioned how suffering and challenges are part of our spiritual journey, similar to how a caterpillar undergoes a transformation to become a butterfly. This transformation is like our own spiritual journey where we experience trials that they help us to grow and evolve. Oh, this was truly enlightening. Ekankar teaches that we are co-creators of our reality. We have the power to stand strong and navigate through the life's challenges with the help of Mahanta and the spiritual exercises like singing you. I would love to hear your thoughts about this and what is your take and what you learned from this video. Thank you for watching and joining me on this spiritual journey. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe and share it with your friends. There are a lot of people that might benefit from this video. Thank you. I love you all.